Welcome to a deep dive into the world of forgotten tech. Ever feel like we're reinventing the wheel?
It's amazing how often we overlook the ingenuity of the past. It's not just pyramids and temples, although those are incredible too.
Right, but we're talking about plumbing, advanced surgery, even the possibility of sound wave manipulation. I mean, were ancient civilizations really onto something groundbreaking?
You'd be surprised. Your source material mentions the Palace of Knossos, home to the Minoans. They had flushing toilets, baths, drainage systems that were way ahead of their time.
Wait, stop flushing toilets. Seriously.
Seriously, and not just them. The Egyptians were masters of water management, creating irrigation to survive in the desert.
Okay, I need to wrap my head around ancient Crete having plumbing like that. That changes things. So what other kind of technological marvels did they have?
Your notes mention ancient Indian surgery, which is fascinating. We're talking cataract surgery thousands of years ago.
No way. No lasers, no modern anything. How?
Right. They use a tool called a Jabamukhi Salaka to remove cataracts.
That's incredible. I get nervous just getting my eyes dilated. To think they were doing that kind of surgery back then. What else?
They even had plastic surgery, repairing noses, earlobes. It makes you wonder what else is out there, hidden in those ancient texts, you know?
It's both amazing and intimidating. Like we're barely scratching the surface of what they knew. Speaking of ancient ingenuity, you mentioned something about qanat systems earlier. For those of us who didn't study ancient irrigation, what exactly is a qanat system?
So a qanat, it's a system for transporting water. Underground channels, sometimes miles long, using gravity to bring water from, say, an aquifer to a city.
So they tapped into underground water, channeled it to where it was needed. Brilliant. But how did they even build these systems back then?
It took serious understanding. Hydrology, engineering, construction. They used these ingenious surveying techniques working with gravity.
It's like they were in tune with nature in a way we've forgotten. Harnessing its power makes you think what other sustainable solutions we might find by looking to the past. But before we get ahead of ourselves, you mentioned sound as a tool in ancient times. That sounds like something out of a movie.
It does, right. But there are these clues, whispers from history, that maybe, just maybe, they understood sound in ways we're only beginning to rediscover now.
Okay, now you have my attention. Ancient sonic technology. Tell me more.
Well, let's start with one of the biggest mysteries out there. Tibetan monks and levitation using sound.
Wait, are we talking about those stories of monks chanting and using trumpets to lift giant stones? I always thought that was just a myth.
It's one of the most controversial claims out there. Shrouded in mystery, often dismissed as folklore. But people, Western travelers even, documented witnessing these events.
So there are actual accounts of this. What did they say? How did they describe it?
The accounts vary, but the use of sound is always there. Chanting drums, horns, and some kind of intense concentration, meditation, something like that.
That's wild. Is there any scientific basis for this? Or are we in mystical territory?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
To even try to answer it, we need to think about sound itself, its properties, how it could interact with the physical world. It's something we're only starting to grasp now.
Okay, lay it on me. What's the science of sound?
Well, sound, at its core, it's vibration.
Right.
And vibration is energy. And we know energy can manipulate matter.
Right, like sonar, ultrasounds. We use sound waves all the time.
Exactly. So imagine harnessing that power, amplifying sound waves on a massive scale. Could you create enough acoustic energy to move those stones?
I'm getting chills just thinking about it, like
Yeah.
a giant sonic tractor beam. But if they could really do this, where did the knowledge go? Why aren't we building skyscrapers with sound waves today?
The big question, why was ancient knowledge lost? Sometimes it's natural disasters, wars, the fall of empires. Sometimes it was kept secret, deliberately. And sometimes, well, it just fades away. Oral traditions getting muddled over time. It's like a game of telephone.
So you're saying even if there was something to this sound levitation, that knowledge might be gone, misinterpreted over the centuries.
It's a possibility. But the exciting part is this. Even if the how-to is lost, the seed of the idea, that remains. We can use these old myths and legends as inspiration, starting points for our own scientific explorations.
That's a cool way to look at it, not dismissing them as fantasy, but using them as roadmaps to a future we haven't even imagined yet.
Exactly. And we haven't even touched on things like the mystery of Greek fire.
Greek fire, wasn't that some super weapon used by the Byzantines?
That's the one. Imagine a weapon so powerful it could burn on water, destroying ships with incredible efficiency.
Okay, now I need to know more. How did it work? What was it made of? Why was something that powerful lost?
Those are the questions, right? The exact formula is a mystery, lost to time. Some people think it was petroleum-based, maybe with quicklime, other things. But whatever it was, it changed naval warfare.
Amazing. It's like something out of a movie to have that kind of technology back then. But if it works so well, why hasn't it been rediscovered?
That's the mystery. Some say the secret was so closely guarded it died with its creators. Or maybe a catastrophe, something that destroyed the knowledge forever.
It's both fascinating and frustrating to think about all that lost knowledge. Who knows, maybe one day someone will unearth a scroll with the secret formula or a hidden lab where they perfected this stuff.
Wouldn't that be something? It just goes to show there's still so much we don't know about the past, and probably even more we can learn from it.
You know, hearing about all this ancient tech makes me think about the Library of Alexandria.
Ah, the Library of Alexandria. That place represents both knowledge and loss at the same time. Imagine a place with scrolls and books containing all the wisdom of the ancient world. Philosophy, math, astronomy, medicine, everything.
It's like the ultimate what if in history. What if it hadn't been destroyed? What secrets might it hold? What would we know now if those scrolls had survived?
It makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All those volumes of brilliance of those civilizations just gone. But even though it's gone, the Library of Alexandria reminds us how important it is to preserve knowledge, to make sure the best of humanity isn't lost.
It's almost a cautionary tale for us now, in the digital age. We think we're so advanced, but what if servers crash or an EMP wipes out everything?
It makes you think, right? Maybe we need to diversify how we preserve things. Maybe those old methods, ink on parchment, stories passed down, maybe those had something to them.
It's strange, right? We're more advanced than ever, but we still look to the past for inspiration, for those reminders of human ingenuity.
It proves progress isn't a straight line. Sometimes the biggest leaps forward come from looking back, rediscovering the brilliance of those who came before.
I like that. Speaking of looking back, let's talk about ancient China. They were light years ahead in so many ways. Gunpowder, the compass, paper making.
Yeah.
But what gets me is their medicine, their alchemy.
It's fascinating. Ancient Chinese medicine was incredibly advanced for its time. Acupuncture, herbal remedies, energy work, we still use those today.
It's incredible. I've tried acupuncture, it works, but I never thought about it as ancient tech. It's like they understood the human body in a totally different way.
They did. It wasn't just about treating symptoms. It was about balance, harmony within the body's energy. And their herbal knowledge, they were masters at finding the healing properties of plants.
Amazing. But what about the alchemy? Wasn't that about turning lead into gold?
Well, that was one goal, sure. But it was much more than that. It was philosophy, science, spirituality, all mixed together. It was about understanding the universe, its transformative power.
So it was more about personal and spiritual change, not just getting rich.
Exactly. They believed that by understanding alchemy, they could not only transmute metals, but achieve immortality, enlightenment.
Now that's ambitious, but what did they actually know? What could they do?
For one, they could really work with metals, creating alloys, pigments that were valuable all over the ancient world. Their metallurgy was way ahead, even if, turning lead into gold didn't quite pan out.
So like the master craftspeople of their time? What about medicine? Did alchemy play into that?
Oh, absolutely. They believed the same rules that changed metals could change the human body too. Herbs, minerals, all based on alchemical principles. They even tried to make elixirs of immortality.
Now that's some ancient tech I wouldn't mind getting my hands on, but it's mind-blowing how far they went to understand nature.
It really is. And even if we don't know everything they knew, their innovations changed the world. Gunpowder, the compass, printing. Their impact is undeniable.
Speaking of impact, we can't forget the Romans. Engineering, military law, they did it all. What kind of tech did they have?
Masters of engineering for sure. Aqueducts, bringing fresh water to their cities over miles and miles using gravity, arches, tunnels, and their roads, still in use today in some places.
It blows my mind, the skill involved, building all that without modern tools. They were building the world we know.
They were. And it wasn't just buildings and roads. Sanitation, public baths, sewers,
Yeah.
military tech, catapults, siege towers.
Always pushing the limits. Did they have any lost tech, like the Greek fire we talked about?
Good question. We haven't found anything on that scale, but there are hints, like there are stories about something called flexible glass. They say it was unbreakable.
Unbreakable glass. Sounds like something out of a comic book. What happened to it? Why aren't we using it?
That's the million-dollar question. It's a mystery. Some believe it was real, others say it's a myth.
It really makes you think. Maybe there's ancient tech out there, just waiting to be found again.
Exactly. And it reminds us to keep an open mind about the past. We don't always find what we're expecting, but there's always something amazing waiting to be discovered.
It really makes you wonder what other secrets are hidden away in history. Speaking of secrets, we were talking about the Library of Alexandria. It wasn't just any library, right? It had stuff from all over the ancient world.
The Library of Alexandria. Oh, it was more than just a library. It was like the center of knowledge. Scholars came from everywhere, bringing the wisdom of their cultures with them.
It's hard to imagine how much was lost. What kind of tech could have been in those scrolls? Blueprints for ancient robots or maps of space.
Well, your sources say it had everything, from engineering and math to philosophy and even medicine. It does make you think, what if we had that knowledge now? Archimedes' lost inventions, or the medical books of Galen. It's incredible to think about.
Like losing a treasure chest, a connection to some of the greatest minds ever. Makes you realize how fragile knowledge is.
It really does. The Library of Alexandria shows us that progress isn't a guarantee. Knowledge can be lost as easily as it's gained. But it also shows why what we're doing is so important, Looking back, trying to find those pieces of wisdom and see if they're relevant now.
Like we're doing an archaeological dig for knowledge, putting together the pieces of the past to understand how ingenious people were.
That's a great way to put it. And those pieces can lead to amazing things. Like, have you heard of the anti-theorem mechanism?
The anti-theorem mechanism. Sounds familiar, but I can't quite remind me.
It was found in 1901 in an old Greek shipwreck. At first, it just looked like a hunk of bronze, all corroded. But it turned out to be an astronomical calculator, centuries ahead of its time.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying the ancient Greeks had something that could calculate stuff in space? How?
It's pretty amazing, right? They were brilliant engineers, astronomers. They used gears and dials to track the sun, moon, planets. It could predict eclipses, even keep track of the Olympics.
You're kidding. That's like something you'd see in a tech museum today, not from an ancient shipwreck. What else does it tell us about them?
The anti-theorem mechanism is like a glimpse into a world of knowledge that's been lost. It tells us that they were capable of incredible things. I mean, who knows what else they might have created, right?
Yeah.
Stuff that just didn't survive or hasn't been found yet.
It's exciting and kind of scary, all these mysteries still out there. And speaking of mysteries, we talked about the Qanat system before. You said they're still in use today. Where?
Oh, you can find them all over. Iran, Iraq, Oman, Yemen, even China and South America have them. Some are thousands of years old. They're proof of how well they were built, how clever the design was.
That's really something. Tech that old, still working today. What can we learn from that?
I think the Qanat system reminds us that the simplest solutions can be the best, the longest lasting. They worked with nature, not against it. They found a renewable resource and used it without needing complicated machines or energy.
A powerful lesson, especially now. It makes you wonder, if we rediscovered and used some of these ancient technologies, could we create a better future?
I think so. And it's not just about the tech itself, it's about the thinking behind it. They respected nature, understood how to live in balance with it. We could learn a lot from that, especially now with climate change and everything.
Like, they had a guidebook for sustainable living that we've, I don't know, misplaced somewhere along the way. But we can't just dwell on what's lost. We have to see what we can rediscover and learn from. And speaking of learning from the past, what about the ancient Egyptians? We all know about the pyramids, but what other tech did they have?
Well, even the pyramids themselves, they show how good they were at engineering, math, astronomy, all of that. But they did a lot more than just pyramids.
Okay, so it's not all about pyramids. What else did they do?
They were amazing at managing water. I mean, they lived in a desert. They had these irrigation systems that were so advanced. And their shipbuilding. They built boats that could sail up and down the Nile, even out on the open sea.
Ancient Egyptian ships, that's always captured my imagination. What were they like?
They used what they had around them, wood from acacia trees, ropes from papyrus, sails woven from flax. It was simple, but it worked.
Can you imagine sailing down the Nile in one of those boats, transporting goods, people, ideas? It's fascinating. But how did they navigate? They didn't have GPS or anything.
They were fantastic astronomers. They used the stars to guide them. And they understood the Nile, the currents, the wind. They used it all.
A true connection to their world, using their knowledge to navigate and explore.
That's it, exactly. And it wasn't just sailing. Medicine, math, astronomy, they were innovators in so many areas.
Okay, so tell me about their medicine. What did they know?
They knew a lot more than you might think. Their medical papyri, they talk about surgery, treatments, even spells to fight off sickness.
Spells, like magic spells. It's like a mix of science and magic.
It is. They saw health as a whole picture, the physical and the spiritual all connected. So their medicine, it had both the practical and the mystical.
I like it. What kind of surgery could they do?
They could set broken bones, treat wounds, even do some minor surgeries. There are records of them removing splinters, treating infections, even circumcisions.
Wow. Not bad for thousands of years ago. Makes you think, what else did they know? But let's shift gears a bit. We talked about sound being used as a tool earlier. The whole Tibetan monks levitating objects with sound. It's like something out of an Indiana Jones movie.
Right, it sounds crazy. But these stories, they pop up all over the world, all throughout history. There's something about them that's really captivating.
So maybe we shouldn't just dismiss them as fantasy. Maybe there's something real behind the myth.
Maybe. Think about it. We know sound is vibration, and vibration is energy, right? And we've talked about how good ancient civilizations were at using different kinds of energy. So is it really impossible that they might have found a way to use sound in these amazing ways?
I don't know, you've got me thinking. But if they could really do it, how? What was their secret?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? If only we knew. We have the stories, the legends, but no real proof. But maybe that's what's so interesting about it. It's a mystery that makes us want to keep searching, keep an open mind about what's possible.
It reminds us we don't know everything, that the past is full of mysteries, just waiting for us to discover them.
Exactly. Who knows? Maybe we'll find something incredible if we just look beyond what we think we know and embrace the wonder of it all.
Okay, let's get back to sound levitation. It's a cool idea, but is there actually any evidence that ancient people could do this?
That's the big question, right? We have these stories, these legends, but actually finding proof is tough. It's like we're missing half the pieces of a puzzle.
So how do we even start to figure this out? Archaeology, folklore, or just guessing based on science?
A little bit of everything. We look for artifacts, anything that might show they were using sound in a special way. We read old texts, stories, looking for clues. And yeah, we use science too, what we know about physics, to see if it's even possible.
Like we're detectives, but instead of looking for clues at a crime scene, we're searching for echoes of ancient knowledge.
That's a good way to put it. We got to be open to the idea that maybe, just maybe, ancient civilizations knew more than we think they did. Maybe they had technology, ways of doing things that we're only now starting to understand again.
It's both humbling and really exciting, right? That there's still so much to learn from the past. But let's talk specifics. You said scientists can levitate small things with sound now. How?
It's all about using sound waves in a very precise way, creating areas of high pressure that can, believe it or not, counteract gravity.
Wait, really? How does that even work?
So imagine a speaker making a sound wave. But this sound wave is tuned so that it creates a pattern, a standing wave.
A standing wave.
Think of a wave in a pool. It bounces back and forth between the walls.
Yeah.
Right. So instead of moving across the pool, it seems like it's staying still, just bobbing up and down in the same spot. That's a standing wave.
Okay, I get it. So how do you use that to make something float?
If that standing wave is strong enough, you can trap things in the spots where there's zero pressure. It's like creating a little pocket where gravity doesn't work the same way.
That's incredible. But we're talking about tiny objects here. If we can barely do that in a lab, how could anyone move giant stones with sound?
$1 million question. It's possible they knew how to make those sound waves much, much stronger. Or maybe they found a natural phenomenon, something we haven't discovered yet, that amplifies sound.
I feel like we're getting into science fiction here, but then again, they used to think a lot of things were impossible that are totally normal now. Who knows what we'll be able to do with sound in the future?
Exactly. We have to stay curious, ask questions, and never underestimate the people who came before us.
Well said. That feels like a good place to wrap things up for today. From ancient plumbing to the mysteries of sound levitation, it's been a wild ride through history and human ingenuity.
It really has. And remember, the exploration doesn't stop here. Every old object, every inscription, every story has the potential to unlock something amazing.
So to everyone listening, keep that curiosity alive. Who knows what incredible technologies are waiting to be rediscovered or maybe even reinvented, inspired by the brilliance of the past.